Chase, thank you so much for joining me in this docuseries, Custom Build, where we dive into the backstory of the different game professions that are out there. The goal is always to inform people who are in the industry or wanting to get into the industry, all the different avenues that they have. And so I'm just really excited to hear about your story and learn, what inspires you. And so, if you don't mind introducing yourself and sharing your intersection in the games industry.
So, I'm Chase Bethea. I'm a professional video game composer and technical music designer. Technical music designer is I come up with design systems that involve interactive, dynamic, and adaptive music to work with games. So, beyond linear loops, working with middleware or non-middleware, just maybe directly an engine, depending on the proficiency and the efficiency of knowledge within the programmer and myself, to make a really cool gaming experience. So writing the music, designing the music to just be enhanced, because we should know at least that games are 50% of the experience itself. So I've been in the industry for about over a decade, and the actual number is like 12 years, and have shipped over about 20, close to 25 games so far. So that number is going up very nicely. I'm very happy about that. And I've been guest speaking as well across to different game conferences like Berkeley College of Music and NAMM and GDC. I gave about 3 talks this year alone at that conference,
Wow.
and hope to do a couple in different colleges as well, and like Northwestern and other like GameSoundCon, like just industry conferences and places too. And most will be known for the music work that I've done for A Ground. I've won an award for that, and recently the game On the Peril of Parrots. And my music's been nominated in the industry for Best Artist of the Year, VGMO for I Can't Escape Darkness, and featured in Destructoid for Cupid Climber. So it's just been continuously going forward, trying to push the eclectic sound of game music in its right in terms of my visionary and oral capacity.
I think alone in what you've shared, pushing the envelope forward that goes without saying. You are constantly doing incredible things and making vast contributions in the realm of music and music tech. And so that's just really incredible. If somebody hasn't reminded you of it today, um, I would love to know, like, what got you your start? How did you, where did you land at the moment of saying music's the way that I'm going to make my way into games?
Yeah, there's a there's a couple of different intersections with it, but the more direct story that I usually share is that I was working at Lens Crafters. Before then, I saw a video on was playing God of War 3, and I unlocked this video from Unlockables from playing the game, and I saw this composer talked about how music can be anything in games, that no matter, there is no style limit. And so I figured with what I was already writing for several years, people already told me my music sounded like it should be in a video game. I didn't know that it could actually be a career until I decided to test it out. So I remember writing music, and then I was already customizing a game engine called Mugen, which is a fighting game that you can
Yeah.
tell like Death Star versus Homer Simpson, or Sephiroth
Yeah.
versus Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, and just anything. So, but you can customize your stages and everything. You can implement your own music. You can implement whatever music you want. So I wrote my own music, and I designed it for that. That led to, okay, I think this could be a career, by hearing like someone said my music sounded like it should be in Castle Crashers. So then it led me to seeing that interview, and then I recorded my own reel from the PlayStation, which is still on my YouTube channel to this day,
Yeah.
for Gran Turismo, just to see and get an idea. Okay, I really do believe now it fits. Until I got a job at LensCrafters. I was working in the lab. A colleague said his uncle worked in the games. Then I talked to that uncle. He got me an internship. I was working on that while being in community college. And so that was coming together. Then the company shut down. I declined the offers of kind of continuing to work with them, because I wasn't super sure about the practice.
Yeah.
But so I was hooked though. So I bought it. I did more research. How do I continue this? How do I make this happen still? So still while in community college at Moorpark College, I found a book called The Complete Guide to Game Audio by Aaron Marks, second edition, and read half of the book, submitted my work on some game dev forums, and wrote an extra piece of music for one that I submitted. didn't hear from like two devs, but I heard from one. He liked the work, ended up being a paid gig, and it was my first ship game called Electron Flux. And from there, I just did game jams and built relationships with different developers online.
Well, in my conversations so far, I think a formula that has existed consistently has been that individuals who are enamored with the field of games, that they're constantly engaging with it in some capacity, whether that's constantly making music, making mods, various hobbyist elements that are creating positive indications of, hey, you might be passionate about this, so let's keep it going
Yeah.
in your journey, propelling things forward for yourself. What have been some of the challenging moments, and how have you found yourself overcoming those things?
The challenging moments are the typical of having to work 10 times harder than, in my perspective, of what we perceive to be out there, like social media that's posted and the opportunities of things, and for to get certain opportunities. But under being in my mind to understand that the game industry, or any other industry for maybe that matter, if I may boldly say, is an RPG. And a lot of leveling up is involved. It is a Dark Souls type of game, if you view it that way, or it could be a Xenosaga type of game, if you wish. But regardless, it's an RPG. You're not When you pick up an RPG, you're not going to finish it. You may not finish it in 5 years. You may not finish it in a couple of years. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours, and that is really the work that it takes to continue to climb and level up in this industry to get to the next opportunity that you feel gratified, or you feel appreciated, or you feel valued, or you feel acknowledged for, in terms of the hard work that you put in. Because it's just really not overnight, and and it doesn't happen in your mind the way you feel that it may go to get it done. It just happens on the time that it's supposed to happen at. And so with those, that's one thing about it. And then just having good communication with really good people and their mindsets in terms of understanding the value of the work that's there,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of things have become more accessible. Game engines are free, music is royalty free, and in some way. But the people that you work with to make great products, like the reason why games have come together, is because of those collaborations and understanding that it's not just being brought in at the last minute to get something done. You do want to have a proper brainstorm and input to make a good experience for someone who's not working in games, for when their long day happens, that they can enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking past what we're in the project to get there. And it's like just finding those type of people who understand that mindset has been, I think, a challenge over the past decade or so, because it's almost like if you do get it, that person may they may get burnt out, and then
Mm-hmm.
now you got to start over
Mm-hmm.
and do it again. It's almost like being in a relationship. You're in this, you're committed, and then someone's mindset changes, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like, I guess this is not going to be long term. I got to start over again.
Right.
And
Right.
it's kind of been like that with some developer relationships, at least for me, in some way, not all the time, but it just in a little bit of a way, I could say.
Yeah, it sounds like in some capacity, navigating games for you is in some ways nomadic. That there's almost, you could almost make an analogy within a game about the journey of making those connections, rather disparate or long withstanding. And I would love to know, when those connections come together and you deliver that excellent game, because I heard you kind of hint at both of those instances. How does that feel for you? You have the good result, you had the camaraderie, and the product is out there.
It When it's released, it feels really great. It's a it's a yata, we did it.
Yeah, Air 5
It's
freeze frame.
yeah, you're right. So and because it's not easy to do what we're doing. There's a lot of things that come with it on a day to day to try to get something done. And the biggest thing is your mind thinking, do you want to do this today? Do you feel that you can do this today? What are the challenges? It's a constant puzzle piece of a puzzle that's ever evolving
Yeah.
until it just slots in, and then it gets done, to its level that it gets done at. So it feels really good. And I, over the years now, come to, I think I've been doing this thankfully for at least several years now. But
Hmm.
when, even if I, because most of my work is remote, I try to at least treat myself. If it's, even if it's McDonald's, or have a pour a small glass,
Yeah.
cheers to the sunset, and just take the moment to understand even that whatever emotionally I went through, or physically went through, in terms of like just maybe being fatigued depending on the development cycle, that I took a moment to say it got done.
Hmm.
It's another one in the books. It's another one on in the portfolio that I
Hmm.
can say, yeah, I did that, because a lot of people can't. I've realized don't get to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, when it comes to the type of work that you do and creating these compositions, what are what are some of the other games or music, like compositions, things that inspire you in your pursuit when moving ever forward the I got another one done mentality?
Compositions haven't been too much. I know I do. I've been thinking about this, I think, for the past week or so, and I'm thinking I really need to. I know that I feel it, but I really need to embrace it now. And I
Hmm.
feel that I'm still heavily relying on retro nostalgia.
Okay.
And it is up to, at least it's getting up to the PS4 era for retro, in terms of calling it that.
Don't you
But for
dare.
sure, hey, look, don't look at me when the PS6 comes out.
Another gray
Like
hair
next week.
sprouted by calling the PS4 retro.
Yeah, look. I'm not making the consoles that fast, okay? But the PS3, and backwards, and it's not even about it's not even about childhood. It's about just how things were shipped, and what it feels like, and the development stories that they had
Hmm.
about what they did before about it. And I think it might be some childhood, but it's definitely, I've conflated it with some adulthood things, because some things I do have some really decent memories for. But I'm thinking Sega Genesis, PS1, and Dreamcast era, PS2, and just how well those pieces of music were just put together, and the
Hmm.
consistency that it shipped with the game, and that I find still invigorates me in a way of inspiration. The other two things that I have realized within, I'd say, the year, is that actors' longevity is something that continues to inspire me now, because when I was getting into the industry, it was composers that I was seeing and looking at how they move.
Hmm.
Now I'm 10 years in, and I don't really have too many composers that I look in that regard anymore. It's just not there. So I've shifted my inspiration now to looking backwards in time, like I said, for retro, and then looking at
Yeah.
longevity for actors. When I see actors who I grew up with in movies still being booked and doing movies, and thinking somebody still believes in them to cast them to be there, to not be.
Right.
Sandra Bullock kind of comes to mind, right? She's still doing it, and it's awesome, because that industry is really, really visceral.
Yeah.
And if they can withstand that and still make good money and still do what they love and still be seen, I think that's, cool, because that's their passion, and that's their focus. And the third thing that I realize is that I want to mention Bruce Lee and the mindset discipline that he had, and I think
Yeah.
it came back from learning from his sifu. Was he's had many, but it's particularly Ip Man, and his mindset that inspired Bruce Lee to become Bruce Lee, and just becoming
Okay.
the disciplinary focus. And that's what I had as a child. I was inspired by Bruce Lee, and I remember the thought process of how he trained his mind and doing those things. And so I think the amalgamation of, I said, like retro game music, or and development included,
Hmm.
and that era of what they were doing, the actors and their longevity of how they're sustaining, and just the discipline mindset of, let's just say, kung fu
Hmm.
overall. It's just been the foundation, I think, that I've built to sustain the inspiration of continuing on forward.
Is there a is there some sort of connective tissue between the those three areas that you mentioned that have made each of those things memorable for you? It almost sounds like, that there is something. I like when you mention those things. I feel as though I'm on the cusp of understanding what if there was a word that could be distilled from each of those. Maybe it's discipline, maybe it's something else, but when it's to nostalgic music, to kung fu, and sorry, I because of threes, I had already lost the middle one that you had mentioned. I remember the first and the third.
Longevity.
Longevity. What do you think is that memorable piece that is existing throughout each of these, persisting throughout each of these?
I'm teetering between two words: peace and happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because peace in the mindset of for martial arts, you do have to clear your mind to be fluid with your moves.
Yeah.
Happiness between, obviously, for nostalgic music of where I grew up with hearing and understanding what that is, and that's not every day that I want to hear it, but when I guess I'm thinking of something to lean on, I'll pull up, an Electric Playground episode and look back at, oh yeah, that's how they're doing that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, because sometimes it takes a kind of, when we're in our day to day to kind of get things done, it's not easy to just kind of pop in the game and get that feeling and go again. Right. So I'm thankful for videos that were made to kind of pull. That's my time travel, and that's the only thing I get closest to for that. So there's happiness there and peace, because you're escaping in some way. And then for in between of just seeing actor longevity, I just have to say happiness overall, that they are pursuing what they could say no, right? I'm thinking for cemented actors, if we saw like Matthew Broderick come back or something, whoever wants to act. I'm just thinking of people from 80s and 90s who are still who say yes to roles.
Yep.
No matter what it is. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, is a good example, right? He could say no. He was governor of California. He could have decided, I'm not going to be acting anymore. And now Terminator Genesis came on the other day. I'm thinking he's still doing it. He's still saying yes. He doesn't have to, but he does.
Right.
And so I think there's got to be some part of something that in there that makes him happy to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really special that you touched upon it. And just in the backstory, nostalgia has brought us together as friends, and it's because of so many conversations relating to games. And on par with that, I just discovered the despairing percentage of games that have been underpreserved. And I wish I could recall the number right now, but there was an article that had just came out highlighting that I think it was like games before the year 2010 are almost impossible to get. With the exception, impossible to get, with the exception of physical copies, with the exception of going to a place that has archived them or pirating them. And a lot of us have resulted to those exact outcomes with things like emulation and Steam Deck. And I'm not condoning stealing games off the internet, but if you can't get the game, what do you do?
So, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
pray and manifest physical form.
Yeah, and it'll maybe if I think about it hard enough, they'll remake this damn game. Shout out to Tenchu. Tenchu's still not getting.
Shout out to Limited Run.
Shout out to Limited Run. Yes, absolutely. I think as we look back at some of the experiences that have had a positive or monumental impact on us, what do you think of as we think about nostalgia and the positive experiences that they've given us? What do you think about the future of games and your contribution to it?
I'm concerned about the future of games, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, and then I'm thankful at the same time. I'm concerned because I think on a grand scheme, the industry is moving somewhere I didn't envision it to be, and where that place is, I don't think it's a good. I don't think it's a good place. I don't think it's sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it treats people well, and I think I think something has to change radically. Not, I don't see a 1984 video game crash happening, but I do see something, some kind of paradigm shift coming abroad.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm thankful because if that does happen, then obviously that means good time for another golden age of gaming, which we were on the precipice of within 2013 to 2015. It was very, very minute,
Mm-hmm.
but really the golden age remains still within that 90s era. And so what I'm thankful of is that there are there's small, if you look at well and you seek in your heart and your mind about the community and the vision that you want, it may not be on the grand scheme of where you envision this game industry to be, but it's happening somewhere else in the game industry.
Mm-hmm.
They may not get the shine and the limelight and the accolades that they deserve, but it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And if it exists and that's where you want to be, then you found your tribe to be in it.
Yeah.
And you can be happy and peaceful there. And that's what I discovered this year, is that, oh, you can still make games. It may not be on the scale that you want it to be at for all that,
Mm-hmm.
but if you decide to, and I'm gonna use this word because I think it's the best word. It's not a sacrifice, but it's a small compromise, and it really is, to enjoy and develop the games that you want to make, and you find the people in that community that are healthy
Mm-hmm.
and that nurture and that want to sustain and do it because they love it, then you can continue to go forward in this. And I think, and I want to just give a big love to Tony Barnes, because I think he cemented that with me. And when I talked to him at GDC and met him for the first time, because it was something that was in me that I was struggling with, because I was thinking it should happen on a bigger scale. But I saw him show me like 5 games that he's working on.
Wow.
And he was a pioneer that worked on many titles that, you and I grew up with as children, and he's still doing it. And you could tell, you could find he's doing it himself, and he's got, reaching out to whoever he needs to reach out to, but it's that small community.
Wonderful.
It's not something that's, beyond that level. So that is the inspiration I'm trying to say for forward, is that find that community. Thankfully, that's what I'm thankfully, the game industry is big enough to foster those little pockets. It doesn't have to be what everybody is always seeing on Summer Games Fest and wherever else you're looking for your pockets of things. Yes, those games like the small community games do get slotted in there, and that's a big win in that sense. But it doesn't. What I'm talking about is if it's the big AAA game studios that we always typically hear about, then I just don't see it there. It's happening behind like 2 curtains behind. Because what I thought would happen is that EA would be replaced by a smaller game studio by this point. Like there would be a new place that EA now cements, right? To be a new Activision, because that's they started like that, and so it's like that baton's not getting passed. What's happening is those companies are absorbing them and then poofing them. They're just, well, you didn't ship that. We gave you opportunity. You made this game. We did the sales, and we got to go under. And now people have to scatter and then do other things, and maybe make their own studios or whatever. And I thought the other studios, from people who worked at those game divisions, even if they were at Activision, they decided that wasn't for them, they started their own, or the people who were indie decided to start their own and maybe come together, that those would be the new conglomerates of the era. But that's not happening. So that's where I said, like, I didn't see that not happening, and that's okay, because I at least know that this over here, they're figuring out to just say, oh, no, you're not going to absorb me. We're still going to do our thing. It'd be nice, but we're happy where we are. We have peace and harmony over here.
Right.
Just leave us alone.
Yeah, that is really insightful, and your examination of, say, some of these larger companies and the implications that that comes with maybe partnering with these companies or being published by these companies or acquired is vast. It's certainly pervasive, the effects of larger companies on the games industry, and the types of indications that it's creating for players, and like what it means to make a game, to be a game, in all of the above, everything in between. I think your contributions to the space are monumental, both in the way that you think about games as well as the way that you think about music. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, that we've had the direct pleasure of working together. At least I've had the pleasure. I hope it was a pleasure for you.
Grand pleasure.
Of
I didn't even
working
know if I could
together.
say, because I want to say studios like Wicked Oni and stuff. So I
You
want to
say
give a big
what?
love
Yeah,
back to you.
say whatever. No, it's been an absolute joy, and I continue to look forward to any opportunity to intersect with you and have more conversations as well as be collaborators. Um, Before we go, a component of this show is it's called custom build, and the point is to not only understand your build as an individual in the industry, but the other types of builds that you like, what draws you to a game, what maybe you might have built or configured that makes it feel special to you. And so I've asked you to provide to me some sort of content that was indicative of that. I would love it if you illuminate what it is that we are checking out.
So we are looking at an ancient game. That is the name of the studio. It's not ancient in this perspective, old. It is a game called Beyond Oasis on Sega Genesis. This game, I believe, was in 1996.
Yeah.
But ancient is, oh, cool. Yeah. I used to be really good at my gaming history. But over the years, been kind of just putting it in different places. So the game was to be rivaled against Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo. And the coolest thing I think about this is that the composer is Koshiro-san, Yuzo Koshiro, who a lot of people relate his work to Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, it's really cool. But I enjoy knowing that, because I think it was a family coming for Ancient. And so I think they made this game together and it shipped on Sega Genesis. And it's a really big just adventure RPG type of game. I can beat it in 8 hours now. Some people beat it in 3. That's just amazing. But I love just exploring the colors and the challenges and the music and the level design and the story that goes along with it, which we were looking at right now in terms of the just fun that it has. It's just fun. It's just fun. It's so much fun. I could play this game. What I'm thinking is that I'll play this game and I'm not going to play long, and it just pulls you in, and that's what it's about, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what we're checking out.
I leapt forward just to make sure that we got a taste of some of the gameplay as well, because I find it really wonderful that you took the prompt of sharing a build that is meaningful to you and provided it in that of a retro video game. This is cool to be able to again see how these things influence you, why they're special to you, and I am grateful for having the opportunity to check it out. Could you care to illuminate, like, what are some of the elements of gameplay that we're seeing right here? What is the premise there?
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, oh, this probably is not the best part to show.
It's all good.
But so like I said, it's an RPG without, if you look at this, you wouldn't recognize that it's an RPG. You would just think that it's a roaming adventure game, and that's really cool. Like it's semi-open world, right, in its regard for it being on Sega. This character you're playing here is Ali. And what we just saw was that he has different familiars, or I'm just going to kind of use that. And so the first one you could use is just a fairy. She has 3 different magic mana types that you can do. She does a tornado. She can take out fire with her little bubbles, and she can heal you if you double tap, I think, like A. And the other one that was a hidden cave. And if you collect certain gems, if they're red gems, you get more hearts. And then if you get other gems, you boost your strength, but it's only within the start menu, and then you can boost your mana and other things like that. So Freet was the fire familiar for the armlet. And so you can cancel the armlet of the power that you have. And then anytime you want to summon them, if you want the fairy, you just hit any water, you hit the armlet, the fairy comes out. If you want fire, you hit any fire, Freet comes out, and other familiars that you get. I think there's 4 in total, because you're trying to you have the better, you have the good armlet, and then there's an evil armlet, and then I don't want to spoil the story. There's a big twist, and it's kind of cool. So there's another thing there. So yeah, we're checking out, I think, a fortress right now as we're continuing on.
Excellent. Excellent. It is it's so fun to be able to like hear the interest and passion, like as you're explaining the game. You can I am interpreting, all the fun that you have had with it. And I think that's what makes getting to see, your build, getting to see the types of games that influence you or games that feel special to you on a show like this. And so uh, Chase, I want to thank you again for taking this opportunity to be a little vulnerable with me and share these stories and these components. Uh, before before we go, where can people keep up with the music that you're, you know, um, blowing people's minds with across titles like On the Peril of Parrots, and follow up with you?
Yeah, so you can find any of my music on all the major streaming platforms. I'm going to make some choice. I'm going to make some recommendations in order, specific order. ChaseBethea.bandcamp, Tidal, Spotify, YouTube, and then anywhere else you can do. You can support on Apple Music, and support on Pandora or wherever. That's fine too. It's available everywhere. And some of the soundtracks are on Steam as well. And then also ChaseBethea.com is my website. And then if you want to keep up with me, like I said, my website's there. If you're looking to collaborate or for any type of project needs, you can reach out to me there. I'm also on Twitter, and if you're professionally connections will be on LinkedIn, and that's that.
Excellent. Thanks again, Chase. I'm looking forward to hopefully catching up with you again and learn more about
Yes,
you on another episode of Custom Build. So see you around and be well.
thank you, Derek. Thank you for having me on. It's a grand pleasure talking with you, and thank you again.
Of course.